Here's Gaither off the right side. Has room. Gaither might go right up the gut. At the 20, Gaither 15, inside the 10, he will score. Touchdown.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
Three receivers, Birch, Thomas, and Williams far side. Near side to Great. Fulbright to the right of Mordecai. Here comes the blitz. Mordecai throws a deep out. Pass. Caught. Kobe Birch. Touchdown.
Here's David Smoke.
Welcome back to yet another week. Peter Chevrolet presents Smoaky.com Texas High School Football weekly podcast as we look at some of the better games from last week, some of the best wins. Also, I continue kind of my journey through covering or watching or being a part of state championships. And this week, we'll look at the decade between 2001 and 2009. And then also today, we'll be joined by Reggie Samples, won his 300th career win, his 300th career win in Duncanville's win against DeSoto last week. He'll join us today. Duncanville playing host to Midway this week. And then also, Jerry Forrest in Pigskin Prep will look at the best games of the upcoming week, number 5 of the Texas high school football season. It's kind of hard to imagine, but we're well past the first month of the year as we hit the last weekend, last full weekend of the month of September. But as I do every single week, we kind of look back at some of the memories that I have covering state championship games. For example, in 2001, there's a guy named Reggie McNeil, the quarterback at Lufkin. We know the story. Went to Texas A&M. He won the state championship that year. They beat Austin Westlake, but the game I remember was a semifinal game against Trinity High School at what was then Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium. Reggie McNeil and Lufkin were down big in that game. It was pouring down rain. Trinity was in complete control of that game. And then Reggie McNeil started making one play after another like he would do. Earlier that year, I saw Reggie McNeil playing a game in Tyler, that same stadium, against what was then Robert E. Lee High School. He scored in every way possible. Threw touchdowns, ran for touchdowns. He also intercepted a pass in that game. And they put him in on defense whenever they needed something to happen. And Lufkin was obviously very good. They went on to win the state title, beating Westlake. But I remember that the semifinal game, I did the broadcast in the final game that Lufkin beat Trinity and went on to win the state title. In 2002, Texas High, they won the state title with a win against New Braunfels, 42-11. Now, Barry Norton was the head coach. There was something brewing at Texas High. They're pretty good. They got one of the first to have that unbelievable indoor football facility. But on that staff was a guy named Scott Surratt. And yes, we've had Scott on this show, the 8-time state champion at Carthage. He was on that staff. I bring that up for a reason. Also, 2003, St. Augustine beat Jim Ned for the state title, a 2A state title. Lynn Graves was the head coach. That would be the last game that he coached there, at least until I think he came back and coached there again. He had also been a head coach at SFA, was there when SFA in 1989, Stephen F. Austin lost to Georgia Southern for a national championship in what was then Division I AA. Lynn Graves took St. Augustine to a state title, and then because of what you see on occasion, parents unhappy with this or that, eventually he was railroaded, sent out of town, fired, and St. Augustine then went through a few years where they weren't just as good. But it was just a story I remember that's kind of bitter for me when I see coaches basically run out because of people mad because of playing time or whatever reasons they want to make up. And school boards get involved, and I know that's their job. But at the same time, that was a bad situation. Also that year, Atlanta won the state championship, beat Marlin. Atlanta's football coach was a guy named Ben Scharnberg. Atlanta was always, that's that great speed in East Texas. Atlanta had a couple of early losses. I started to do some of their games on the radio, started to cover some of their games. I was at their state championship game. It was also at Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium at the time. That was the name of the stadium in Tyler. They were one of the fastest high school football teams I have ever seen. They had a guy named Curtis Burns. He started out playing junior college football. I don't know whatever happened to him, but they had an amazing team. That was one of the fastest high school football teams I ever remember covering, 2003 Atlanta. In 2004, I brought this memory up. Both Jennifer and Craig went to Lee High School, now Legacy High School. They beat Spring Westfield at the Alamo Dome 28-21 to win the state title. That year, they lost a game early on to Trinity when they had a couple of players out, but Trinity was good. The game was at Pennington Field. And then later on, Lee would play them in the semifinals and beat them up. You might beat Trinity, but very few teams physically or in some ways move them around. Lee did that. They schemed him. Mike Owens was the head coach as they beat Trinity in the semifinals at then was Texas Stadium, and eventually went on to win the state title the next week against Spring Westfield. Tyrone Ross, the great running back, record-breaking running back for Lee during that time. And they had another kid named Jason Stripling who intercepted a touchdown, ran back an interception for a touchdown against Trinity in the semifinals. He did it again against Spring Westfield in the state championship game. Gilmer in 2004 won their first title. Gilmer had been on a run since Jeff Traylor arrived. They won. They beat Jasper. I think the game might have been at Homer Bryce Stadium in Nacogdoches. That was Jeff Traylor's first state title. He'd win another one later on. Now we know he's the head coach at UT San Antonio. He's been at Arkansas. He's been at Texas, and now he's got a shot at UT San Antonio. They have a really important game this week in the American Athletic Conference against Memphis. 2006, Waco High lost to Lamarck. Johnny Tusa, legendary coach at Waco High who did such a great job with them. He was first coach they ever had when they opened up in the mid-'80s. Took them to a state title. Boy, Waco High was always, if you could beat Waco High back in that time, you knew you were a playoff contending team, a team that could win multiple games and maybe go on to win more than just a couple of playoff games. In 2008, I watched Lake Travis beat Longview at Floyd Casey Stadium 48-23 with a guy named Garrett Gilbert. Might have been as perfect a quarterback as you've ever seen in high school. Went on, of course, he was committed to Texas, played at Texas, was a part of the team that lost to Alabama when Colt McCoy went down in 2009 season. Might have been as good a high school quarterback as I've ever seen, and that includes watching Reggie McNeil, watching Vince Young, and watching some of the great names in Texas high school football history. To me, it was like the perfect quarterback. Great arm, great mobility. He was just good. Didn't work out for him in college. He's been in the NFL, won a Super Bowl ring. But I remember watching them. That was the start of what eventually, early on, was 5. They won 5 straight state championships, including that one I saw in 2008 against Longview. And then they came back and beat Longview again the next year, 24-17. And then I saw Lake Travis's 5th straight in 2011 beat Midway at then was Cowboy Stadium, now AT&T Stadium. Baker Mayfield was the head coach, was the quarterback of that Lake Travis team. There's just a handful of games from last week I want to bring up, but I tell you what, I was surprised. Never underestimate Highland Park, although this year, their schedule's always pretty good. Rockwall has been beating people up. Big win against Lake Travis, beat Cedar Hill. Highland Park beat Rockwall 52-31. That popped I was like, what? Winning the game is fine, but beating them, Rockwall's got Heath this week in what ought to be one hell of a game. Duncanville 42, DeSoto 21. We're going to hear from Reggie Samples in a minute from Duncanville. His 300th career win in a game that started off 11-6A in those two big boy powers. Stephenville 37-7 over Wiley out of Abilene. It's not so much that. Stephenville has been kind of up and down in the last 3 to 4 or 5 or 6 years. And that was a nice win for them. They have Connolly this week at home, and they seem to have their ship right back where it used to be. And Argyle and La Vega, boy, don't you know this was just a great game. Going back to their first ever meeting in 2015, La Vega won the game in Houston for a state title. They've played a lot since then. They've played in the playoffs. They played each other during the regular season. They're good. And Argyle is really playing at an elite level. No doubt about it. La Vega, their non-district schedule is just flat out incredible. And then Glen Rose beat Grandview 54-24. Last year they ended up playing a game. It was kind of a made-up game at the last second. And Grandview won it. We know Grandview's great run they've had the last 4 or 5 years. But Glen Rose got them 54-24. I thought that was one of the more impressive wins in high school football in Texas from week number 4. When we come back, he has 300 career wins. Dallas, Lincoln, Skyline, and now Duncanville. He's been right on the edge of a couple of state titles, and he's winning and winning big. Duncanville head coach Reggie Samples next. Peter Chevrolet presents Smoaky.com, Texas High School Football Podcast Show.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back to the Smoaky.com's High School Football Weekly Podcast. And so thrilled to have Reggie Samples, Reginald Samples, longtime head coach in high school football, now at Duncanville and has been, and what a run they've had. But he had a run like that everywhere he's been. He joins us now on 365 Sports. What did win number 300 mean to you?
Well, it's just a combination of a lot of hard work, a lot of talented kids, and good coaching staff to work with me, and just proud to get it.
You know, Duncanville's always had numbers. They've had some history in football as well. But, you know, you always hear about you have to have the talent, but it was there. What did you have to change when you arrived? Well,
I just changed the culture of the program. When I got there, not a lot of confidence in the whole system, and we just came in and we told them we were going to work hard, and our goal was to win, and we just needed people to, you know, buy into our plan, and they did.
What were the reactions? They were hungry to win. Obviously, Duncanville's won in other sports as well, but what were they hungry just to be kind of told or shown the way?
Oh, it was a great community. The support was always there. The big thing was just getting the kids to stay at home in Duncanville, and getting the parents of the junior highs to buy in and continue to support what we were trying to do. And it didn't really take long. We got it going.
You know, that's an area that's just loaded with talent. You've got everywhere you look someone next to you because of how deep with talent it is in Dallas. What is it like? Because you have other schools around you that there is the threat of people picking and choosing, and you've been at other places where you've had to deal with that, and you yourself have had to try to keep people from leaving and vice versa. What is that like? Is that a daily deal that you have to kind of know what's going on around you?
Well, you always, no matter where you are, you got to know what's going on. But for me, I kind of take a different approach. I believe that if you take care of your own home and your backyard and keep focused on what you have, then, you know, you can develop out of what you have. I'm not one to try to look around or try to figure out what somebody else has got going on. I try to stay focused and develop the kids that I have. And that always motivates people when they see that you can take kids and you can turn them into a winner and make them a better football player. That's the thing that's helped me be successful.
Do you have, and I'm sure there are dozens of these stories, maybe hundreds, but Reginald Samples, our head coach at Duncanville, with us. Do you have a story, and I'm sure you could go on forever, about a player that perhaps it was hard, and maybe they didn't believe you or vice versa, that came back one day and said, hey, I'm where I am today because of you?
Oh, dozens of them. That's one of the most gratifying things that you can get as a coach, to have a kid come back after you've had the relationships that you've had and you've really tried to drill in them what it takes to be a good man, a good character person. And then they come back and say, hey, all of the things that you were telling me, I can see it come to pass as I've gotten older and gotten more mature.
You're playing Midway this week, and you know they're struggling. There's no secret that they're struggling right now. I remember when you first arrived at Duncanville, you played them during non-district games, and of course they were in a great run at this time, at that particular time. Do you remember any of those games when you first arrived?
Oh, without a doubt. They beat the crap out of me the first couple of years I was there. Well, the first year. And, like you said, they were really doing well. With them being in Waco, I really don't know what goes on or what happens, but they definitely were one of the state's top programs 5 years ago.
Well, you have been right there. You've played for state titles. We know about the one game. That's been chronicled 1,000 times. I asked you this, I think, even last year. What will your career be like if you don't win a state title?
Oh, successful. I don't let people define me or what I've done. I can always say some things like you just said. Every program I've been in, we started out at the bottom and been in the national rankings. My winning percentage is over 80%. I don't even know how high it is. So no matter what happens, I'll feel like I had a successful career.
Is it, in your opinion, you mentioned the culture and also getting things straight. Do you feel like the feeder systems and also what you have coming up, that the depth is there? It's not like you just spit out the next quarterback, Jaquindon Jackson, or the next whoever else. But is it pretty good right now where you feel good, no matter who is there, whoever graduates, who doesn't want to play, that you're in a good spot?
Without a doubt. My freshman team is probably one of the better groups I've had in 5 years. Outstanding young quarterback, got kids in every position. As a matter of fact, we have a freshman now starting at wide receiver on the varsity, who's probably one of the better wide receivers that I've coached in my career. So, we're really excited about our future. Yeah,
nobody wants to hear that, though, Reggie. That you've got a freshman who's got 3 or 4 years left in him because of who you've been. I asked you about the state championships because there's so much now, like college football. It seemed like if you don't win the national title or you don't play for the national title, the season can be looked at as disappointing because of expectations. You've had a couple of just gut-wrenching endings to those games. Have you ever wondered, though, no matter how successful you've been, why me?
No, not at all, because I believe in the higher being, and I believe that God has a plan for everyone, and I don't question it. People forget about the journey. We had each one of those years that we got to the state championship. It was a great journey, just the experiences and the wins. See, they talk about the one loss, but they don't talk about the 15 other wins that you have on the way and all the excitement that's surrounding those 15 wins. So, I can't describe how gratifying it is, or it has been, to get to the state championship.
And it would be wonderful if you finally got one, and I hope you do. I really do. But is too much put on just winning the championship now?
I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you I don't want to win. It's a great thing, and I'm sure it's a great feeling to be a part of. I don't look at it like that. The way I look at it is, I work my butt off every year to do the best that I can. After I've given it 100%, I feel like that's all I can do.
Reggie, when you and I talked, it's been a couple of years ago, and it might have been after the second time you guys played for the state title at Duncanville. Were you thinking about not coaching again? Was there a point where you had to kind of figure out if you were coming back?
Not at all.
Okay.
Every year that I've come back, I've known I was coming back. I enjoy what I'm doing. I feel like I'm cheating. I'm robbing someone to be working and in such a gratifying profession that I love. So not at all. I feel like when it's time, or when I get to the point that I don't want to coach again, it'll be a no-brainer. But right now, I'm having a great time. I get up every morning excited about going to work, excited about working with the kids, looking forward to the practice sessions and getting things done. So not at all.
Do you get butterflies no matter who you're playing?
Without a doubt. Probably one of the biggest group of butterflies I had was Friday night, not because of the 300 game, but because DeSoto has a great team. And, we know that this game is going to mean a lot for a district championship and first round seeding. And so I was really worked up and really glad to get out of there with a win. Your district, 11-6A, and it's not like that this hasn't been together before, but when you just look at the top, with all due respect to Mansfield and Lake Ridge, to Waxahachie, Waco High, and Midway, but when you look at the lineage of Cedar Hill, DeSoto, and Duncanville, there might be other districts that kind of have a top-heavy or deep. Is that about as good as it could be? I think so. You look at it last year. We played Cedar Hill. We played DeSoto to get to one round out of the state championship. And then 2 years ago, Cedar Hill and Duncanville were both in the state championship at the same time. So it's a pretty tough district. Is high school football in any way changing to where it could lose its innocence? The way we see college football becoming even almost looks like it's becoming professional. The NIL and the transfer portal, a lot of things we see. Do you still think Texas high school football, as big as it is, still has all of its innocence? It does, but the atmosphere, I have to admit, is changing. This is the first year of the NIL and a couple of years into the portal, and you can see the shape changing a little bit. But in Texas, I still think that football is king. When you get home after that drive from Duncanville High School like you did tonight to get home, and you never know about traffic, what do you do? What do you do? What are like the ways that you decompress and enjoy your evening? Well, I take a good shower and eat a good meal and just kind of relax for a while, and then after a couple hours I'm back on the videos watching film. But it's just a matter of I have a routine that helps me relax, and I go into it every day. Some days I don't get it because on Thursdays we have JV and freshman games, so I don't get home until late. So, but I've already developed a routine that that makes me feel great and feel good about getting up the next day going to work. Who is your all-time athlete that you respect the most? I don't know if it's one. I think I'd really be doing some guys a disservice if I said one guy. I've had a lot of great athletes, and a lot of them are great in different ways. Some of them have had great heart. Some of them had great character. Some of them had great fortitude. A lot of these great players were different in different ways. So it's hard for me to name one. I'd be afraid to try to name one. What about an athlete that you did not coach, a professional athlete? Is there one in particular that you always just like, that's the one you've always looked up to when you were growing up? Well, athletically, the defensive end for the Cleveland Browns, his name is getting away from me now. Myles Garrett? Yes. He was one that I always admired just from his dominance. And I think that's one guy that I'll always remember because, he was almost unstoppable. And I knew that, from his sophomore year in high school, that he was going to be a great player in the NFL. One more thing, Coach Samples from Duncanville with us. Was there something early on in your life that helped you, not just a moment, but that really kind of created who you are today? Probably my experience, my college experience, getting out of high school, being injured, and really not knowing whether I was going to be able to be a scholarship athlete, and then football kind of shaping my future, and just the whole experience around my first couple of years in college, and being a scholarship athlete and taking advantage of some of the things that were there provided by football.
Coach, congratulations on win number 300. We'll see you on Friday, Duncanville and Midway. Thanks for your time. Love what you do, man.
Thank you, and always glad to talk to you.
You too. That's Reginald Samples. I remember Coach Samples, he has a defensive coordinator in Judd Thrash. In fact, Jack, can we put Coach Samples back up? Is it okay? If you don't mind me asking you, Coach, you had a guy, Judge Thrash, who was at McGregor. Things didn't work out right there. You and I, remember when you and I talked about him, you were trying to maybe hire him on your staff. That turned out to be great.
I remember when the recommendation you gave me, and you were right on the money, and we've enjoyed Coach Thrash. He's doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Glad he's there. We'll see you Friday. Reginald Samples, the head coach, Hall of Fame head coach at Duncanville High School. Coming up next, the games of the week in state of Texas. Peter Chevrolet, Smoaky.com's Texas High School Football Show continues.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Thanks again to Reggie Samples, the 300th career win at Duncanville, and they have Midway. We'll be doing that game. Midway at Duncanville. Duncanville's a huge favorite to win the game. District 11, 6A will be at Panther Stadium. 106.7 FM, the Eagle, and also across the board what we do on Sikkim 365 Radio, the app, online, and much more. All right, thanks to Jerry Forrest. Every week on Sunday evening, he sends me, this is an idea that I had, of the best games. He has a ratings service at pigskinprep.com that rates from every private school to every public school, from 6-man all the way up to 6A. And he has a rating service. It's amazing. And based on that, he picks games. And the game of the week from the very elite. Here's the graphic. Thanks to Jerry and also Jack McKenzie, who's running the mothership tonight. Gilmer at Carthage. These two teams, boy, Gilmer used to be one of those that ran East Texas. They still do. But Gilmer and Carthage, okay, here's what we wanted you to know again. Go to the right-hand side. The number on the right-hand side is really what matters. The lower the number, the better the game, based on the Pigskin Prep rating service. That means rank totals. Gilmer's number 1 in the state, and Carthage number 1 in the state, Gilmer number 2 in 4A Division 2. That's a simple math. 1 and 2, that equals 3. Then there's Austin LBJ and Cornerstone, private school that's really done well and played a lot of people. In fact, played Carthage, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Carthage beat them up. That's a great game down in San Antonio. In 6-man football, there's always a couple of these that Jerry throws up. Strawn and Westbrook. Number 2 against number 7. Then there's a kind of a game that's a pick'em in the north part of Texas with Melissa and Paris. In 3A, Idalou and New Deal, both 4-0. That's an elite game. We'll drop down a couple of them. The 8th game on the list is Springtown 4-0. They just beat Conley a couple of weeks ago. Springtown and Midlothian Heritage, a very interesting game. In Central Texas, Lorena and Academy. Now, Academy's ranked 16th. They're 4-0. Lorena's 2-2. Lorena's about a 2-touchdown favorite here, but Academy's off to a really nice start with a 4-0 season on their resume. Corpus Christi Miller and La Vega. Corpus Christi Miller, their quarterback is now at Texas Southern. They're the ones that scored a bucket load of points last year to end the year, made a run into the playoffs and eventually lost. They play La Vega. Don High and La Vega, they play anybody, anywhere, anytime, and they have Corpus Christi Miller coming up this week. Here's a really good one down in the southeastern part of the state near Houston, Manville and Fort Bend Hightower. Bernie Champion, kind of a younger school as far as when they were born, basically. At 4-0, they host El Campo. Yoakum and Navasota, that's a good one in 13 in a 4A game for Navasota against the 3A team in Yoakum. Wimberley and San Antonio Alamo Heights at Wimberley, non-district game. Denton Ryan, remember they lost that one game to Geyer after opening up with a win against Longview. They play Frisco Wakeland. Lomita and Rochelle. Heritage and Fort Worth Richland's an interesting game in Class 4A as well. That's a district game, by the way. And then Rockwell at Heath. Heath with Mike Spradlin, the former head coach at Temple. They made the great run last year. Rockwell coming off that disappointing loss to Highland Park, gave up 52. Heath can put up points. Their quarterback's a Division I player commit. That should be a really interesting game. And then a little tiny game in 2A, and I don't mean tiny, but 2A schools in Tenaha and Lovelady, they play as well. Those are the elite games, according to Pigskin Prep and Jerry Forrest. And you can go to pigskinprep.com. It's a great website. Every week I put up pick'em games for the website, and you can go on there. There's usually like 20 games, and the winners will get coupons or certificates to Rudy's, Country Store and Barbecue, Fuddruckers, hamburgers, and then a lot of times Jersey Mike's out of Tyler and Longview as well. All right, a lot of people to thank today, including Jack McKenzie. Thanks to Duncanville's Reggie Samples. We're hitting week number 5 of the Texas high school football season. Some districts haven't even started. Some of them are in week 2, and we will know more, right? Just like the calendar, from 1 day to 1 week to 1 month to 1 game to 1 other. We'll find out more. We'll have more evidence after this week. Looking forward to that get score between Carthage and Gilmer. Carthage is a favorite. They've owned that series. Well, they've owned almost everybody with the 8 state titles under Scott Surratt. Thanks to Peter Chevrolet and Randy Peters. The man is amazing when it comes to supporting local high school sports, not just in East Texas, but around the state. Peter Chevrolet in Longview. I'm David Smoke, and this has been Smoaky.com's Texas High School Football Show.